Have you ever wondered what would happen if they combined The Tourist, Dynasty Warriors with a roguelike game? Well, we're going to find out, because we're going to talk about a game called Samurai Bringer. But before we get into that, I do want to remind you guys, please do not hit that subscribe or like button. YouTube has electrodes hooked to me right now, and for every time you hit those buttons, it'll fry me. So please do not hit those like or subscribe buttons, and definitely don't hit the bell. But much like having electrodes hooked to your body, Samurai Bringer gives me a feeling of, I don't know, it's a weird sensation. Because it's an interesting game, it's a fun game, but is it a good game? I don't know. Again, let's get into it, let's talk about it. First, let's start with the story. So, the thing about this game, and this honestly goes down as one of the negatives about it, is that it has an auto-scroll function, right? And it goes really fast. And I know that I'm not the brightest crown in the box, but I can at least somewhat read. But it was going so fast I couldn't keep up with it. So to be honest, I'm not exactly sure what the story is, and they don't really expand on it much past like the very beginning. I know that you're there to save a girl, but I don't know if it's a love interest, if it's like, I don't know. I have no idea. But you're quickly thrown into a battle against this like gigantic boss, and by the way, looks great. Like it's like a 8-10 headed dragon creature, and it looks really, really good. And you don't make it, obviously, but you have the potential to be great. You just have to reclaim all of that, and that's where we start off with the game, and essentially where you start off with like the roguelike / Dynasty Warriors. So this game is I would say arguably a boss rush / like there again Dynasty Warriors style / roguelike, where when you die you still get to keep everything that you have. You're not punished for it, but you're just expected to die. And there's a lot of in-depth mechanics to the gameplay and the fighting. Even though the actual fighting is rather simplistic, it just basically ran through like 5-6 button combinations that you do yourself, and you set up every single combination however you want, whatever attack you want. But that's where it actually gets pretty in-depth, because you see, you pick up these skills when you beat an enemy. Most of the time, it's when you beat like a lieutenant or a mini-boss, if you will. If you know Dynasty Warriors, you know what lieutenant is. You know, they're the kind of guys that might hit you a couple times and usually drop something. So these guys usually have like skills, and you can actually stack the skills on the existing skills that you already have. For instance, let's say you have slice and it's tied to A. You can get like 10 slices, and for every time that you stack it on, it'll add an attack. And so you can continue stacking these and make that attack better and better. And each button has their own attack or whatever that you want to put to it, including different weapons and different abilities. So that's a really cool aspect to it. Not to mention, you also are collecting equipment, which changes the way you look. It changes your abilities, your attack style, and your strength. And you can also stack those as well. You can pretty much stack everything. And you can even add in different multipliers, like power, which will give you obviously more power. Or there's some that make it so that each consistent hit will add up to more attacks. Or you can add a debuff, like an armor break. All of that is in here. And for every like lieutenant or boss you beat, you can actually take their full set of equipment, and when you go back out after you die, you can just choose whatever samurai armor you want based on the people that you've already beaten. You see, there's like a lot there. That's like really in depth for what looks like, well, The Tourist. Like it's like this blurry pixel game, and I'm being mean to The Tourist, because The Tourist actually is pretty bright, pretty sharp. This game is blurry as hell, and that's where it really starts to, I don't know, fall apart, because as much customization as there is for, let's say, the gameplay and the battle, there is like very little for anything else. And in fact, the main character and a lot of the NPCs you run into are so generic. And you would think, like, with as much as they put into the battle and that kind of thing, like maybe you would be able to create your own character and just like change hair color or something like that, because honestly, they all look generic and blurry, and the graphics are not good. But they take all of like the energy that they should have had for the main character, and they put it all into the bosses. Like the actual bosses in the game look fantastic, and they're done really well, and they're really, really tough to beat, and they're hard to beat. So they're like super impressive, as where every enemy you run into, every NPC, your own character, are just really flat. And not to mention that the enemies outside of the bosses, and even the bosses are questionable at times, there's the Dynasty Warriors aspect where you're just mowing down people. There's not much of a resistance put up, and you're basically meant to do that, to take down 400 or 500 people, hit a really difficult boss, and then you die. Now, when you come back, you get to take the armor and a lot of the stuff that you acquired during your run. But not only that, is there's also challenges, and they can range from anything from like 100 enemies beaten, or I don't know, using 50 attacks with a bow or whatever. But with each challenge, you'll be rewarded some kind of permanent upgrade for your character. And there's a million of these things. Like every single run you do, you will unlock something and you will upgrade your character in some manner, to the point where you can go further and further and further. So that's the whole thing with this game. Like there's something that keeps pulling me back to it, but again, there's some like very big holes in the game as well. Really, the lack of a story. The graphics outside of the bosses, the graphics are horrible. Like it's just blurry, and I'm playing it in handheld mode on my OLED Switch, which should look really good, and this looks horrible. The music is it's filler. It's not good. And then like the thing is it's like it's $10, so it's sitting there right where it's like it's a little high for what looks to be like kind of a modded out phone game, but it's also well within like a lot of people's price range. Like $10 isn't a horrible price for a game that actually has a lot of replay value and has a lot of depth. But if you're looking for a game that I think is going to keep you engaged and keep you enthralled, I don't know if this is it. Like I said, the lack of story, I guess feeling of your character being unimportant and just kind of a throwaway, like that also has a negative effect to it. But I don't know, I'm very torn on this game. For me, I think this is a game that I would like maybe put on a wish list, and if it hits that like $5 to $7 range, then I would probably pick up Samurai Bringer. But I'll also say this, if someone told me, oh, it's on cell phone for free, I wouldn't be surprised. Like that's the thing. And yeah, I would pay the $5 to use a controller and have a bigger screen if that, is that important. It's a hard game, because some people I think are really going to like it. I think some people are going to be able to grind away at it and have fun. Other people are going to see this as just pointless. But anyway, guys, I appreciate you. Hope you guys had a great weekend. And as always, I'm wishing you health, wealth, and above all, I hope you guys are all happy. Take care, Al. Love you.